It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You could find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting if you email me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. All of our archives are free. At Spreaker.com, go to Spreaker.com. You can sign up for free. There's thousands of shows up there. I play repeats and best ofs every night of the week. The new content goes up Friday night. I do a live show Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. There's a chat room, and you get an email notification when you put up new content. And if you go there and you search for Patrick Bergy, you will find our guest today returning for a third time. And every time has been gold. As a matter of fact, the first time we taped with him, I put in the subject matter of the email, gold, gold, gold. And Ed Parnell thought that was the title of the show, so we just put that up as the title of the show. But we were talking about the Hunter Biden laptop on January 6th. He testified for the January 6th committee. So a lot of great stuff all the time from Patrick Bergy. And you could find his own content, his exclusive content on Patreon, American Awakening. And he's also got a website called freedomstream.tv. He does a podcast as well. And he's written these books, Victim of the Swamp, How the Deep State Destroyed the 40-Year-Old Private. He entered the Army at like 39 years old. American Shadowgate, The Hacking of Mankind's Shadow, and Operation Shadowgate, The American Awakening. And Mr. Patrick Bergy, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming back. Like I said, every time it's been gold. Remind the audience, though, how would you like to describe yourself? Who is Patrick Bergy?
Well, I am the 40-year-old private. I haven't grown up much since then, and still basically consider myself a private, so manage expectations. But no, I spent about a decade from 2005 to 2015, either in with the military in uniform when I enlisted in 05 at the age of 39, turned 40 at basic training, and at Fort Benning, which was apparently the first 40-year-old to complete basic training at Fort Benning. There was like a young whippersnapper that was only 39 that was in the first class right before me. And he got like a Rolling Stone cover or some stuff.
Oh, wow.
So, at any rate, when I, some of my work involved, some of the work as a contractor was overseas with a company called Dynology. I ended up spending like a year in Iraq and then about another year off and on, either in uniform or as a contractor in Afghanistan. But my contract work was largely in IIA, what was called IIA, Interactive Internet Activities. And basically that's, social media psychological warfare. We were in the early stages of it, trying to understand the potential threat that it would pose to our military and our country. And, I suppose there are a few people out there that were looking for white papers on how you could use it, either immorally or unethically on your adversary to win, So it doesn't matter how you win. I guess to some people. It kind of does to me, though, a little bit. So I ended up coming back to the States in 2015. And when I saw what was going on, I ended up discovering that some of the people that were involved in Trump's campaign, like Paul Manafort and Roger Stone, or at least Paul Manafort's component of it, he was one of our partners back in 2007. About the same time we were promoting the ShadowNet commercially. So that ended up becoming a key tam that I filed, whistleblower lawsuit that I filed in D.C. federal court in January of 2020, just before COVID hit. Then that ended up becoming Shadowgate, which was released August 14th of 2020. And while it was being uploaded, the journalist who was an InfoWars journalist, Millie Weaver, who had worked with InfoWars for about 8 years at the time, was arrested while she was uploading it, right? And so by the time she was even out of jail, Roger Stone had called for her firing, which Alex Jones complied with. I had ended up on Alex Jones' show, but it just turned into a mess, right? A soup sandwich after that. And I knew that something was up, but I didn't know really, I didn't realize what was going on, and what I had gotten myself into agreeing to do Shadowgate, which I was asked to do. And so Millie gets fired. This is while Trump's in office, right? And so I have a real problem with that because Trump buried this. And I believe he did it to protect Roger Stone. I know Matt Gaetz has buried this. And I believe Matt Gaetz has done this to protect Roger Stone. And so it boils down to my opinion. Do you think someone who has sacrificed 10 years of his life, either in uniform or as a contractor with the Department of Defense, do you think that person, when he comes forward as a whistleblower, deserves to be heard, right? I don't want to say me too, but deserves or should be heard. Not even deserves, should, just from common sense, be heard. And then his claims, verifiable, should be examined because they're pretty serious claims that I made. This was all buried. It was even banned for a few days or even longer on banned.video. Right? Alex Jones says, Mr. Conspiracy Theory himself, who is apparently now out of a job and a company, thank God, because I think he is just a horrible individual who has no honor, no integrity. He threw Millie Weaver under the bus. She was under threat of losing her children, right? And I don't know. I don't sit here. I'm not actually sitting here defending Millie Weaver, right? I don't know who was doing what in all of this. That's actually literally above my PFC pay grade, trying to figure this stuff out. But it goes pretty deep, and it goes all the way to, like you said at the beginning in the introduction, it goes to key people, key figures involved with the dissemination of fabricated information, basically what I was trying to expose in Shadowgate. They contained Shadowgate and then went out and did what I was trying to expose. And that ended up with a lot of people getting lied to, I believe, and misled, and then January 6th ended up with them in jail. And the people who were really responsible for it, that I was there watching, documenting, not participating with, but as a whistleblower, I think a lot of these people really, a deep investigation congressionally needs to be looked at this, involving Roger Stone, involving Alex Jones, and who these people walk around free with no problems, while hundreds of people sit in jail on January 6th based on information I believe was largely tactically and operationally organized and disseminated for the purpose of an attempted coup of a U.S. election. And I have a lot of evidence to support that. So I do give Trump a lot of crap, right? Because I hate watching people just support him like he's, one of the Beatles. And knowing that man on his watch as president, a couple months out from the election, chose to bury the arrest of an American journalist, allowed her children to be threatened to taken away by a child custody people. Her brother was arrested. He was one of the producers, the cameraman on the for Shadowgate. Her husband Gavin was arrested. He was the producer, and this happened while I was on the phone with him as they're uploading the Shadowgate documentary, exposing Biden, exposing Obama, and even exposing Trump, or people around Trump like Manafort, as being involved in basically using taxpayer dollars to and weapons that were developed, technologies that were developed to protect our country from our adversaries, but instead using them against us to for a competitive advantage in elections, which they sell commercially. And so that's what I've been trying to get out. And people will be like, "Hey, Bergy, shut the fuck up," like you saw on Facebook the other day, and I'm like, "Sorry, Charlie, I ain't shutting the fuck up." Oh,
I know you did it twice.
But literally, STFU was the actual words, or the letters that was used, and that's what I have to deal with, right? So, no, I won't, and I apologize for that. But no,
that's okay. But you know what? This gets to the heart of what I wanted to ask you. Okay, so you talk about, and not that, okay, which never happened. The social media psychological warfare. Now you're telling us that guys like Roger Stone have access to that data and they're using it, and guys like Manafort have access to that data, and I guess they're selling it over in the Ukraine in their elections over there. That's where he was working, right?
Definitely for Manafort. Okay. I can provide forensic evidence directly tying Manafort to the Shadownet. We were his number one partner when he was doing micro-targeted social media work for what's his name, McCain, back in 2008, right? And then McCain ends up losing. I even had a conversation.
Manafort was working for McCain too.
Yeah, Manafort was like one of his campaign managers.
Okay.
And Dynology was also, we both show up there, both his company, 3EDC, and Dynology are listed in the federal tax filings for the federal, or for the election filings for micro-targeted social media and IT security stuff. All easily verifiable. Although, ironically, if you watch Shadowgate 2, you'll see that we show screenshots of before Shadowgate showing one amount that was documented for the work that they did back in 2008, and after Shadowgate, this is in 2020, somebody changed the amount, like to a higher amount after Shadowgate on the Federal Election Commission site. Crazy stuff, right?
No, this is incredible stuff. And people, you got to understand, Patrick Bergy is a serious guy. He testified for the January 6th committee. He was in Rudy Giuliani's apartment handling the Hunter Biden laptop material. He was at these January 6th war meetings and stuff like that. This is a serious guy, and we're lucky to have him here. Now, a couple of quick questions for you. Now, so Matt Gaetz has access to this, Manafort, Roger Stone. Flynn? Does Flynn have access to this data?
Obviously, right?
Yeah.
Flynn was on the board of directors of Cambridge Analytica,
right?
Which Cambridge Analytica was just basically an IIA operation, both operationally and on the data side, and on the I would suspect they also had some form of like content and knowledge management solution in place, like the Shadownet, that would allow you to manage multiple fake personas and conversations that you're having with people, one person being multiple people on social media. And what did we just see? A few weeks ago, we just saw Israel getting busted for on several social media platforms, including Facebook, for what? Using fake personas, multiples of them, to have conversations with each other. Oh, wow, I can't believe this happened with the Palestinians. I was in favor of them, but now I'm not. Just doing a complete psyop on Americans, on American soil, as they're asking us to send them more money, right? More money for weapons, more weapons. They want us to send them more weapons, and they're literally busted, exposed, easy to verify, doing exactly what I was warning about in Shadowgate, and that is tactical coordinated social media psychological warfare campaigns to influence large groups of people. demographics, which, by the way, Steve Bannon, it showed through Cambridge Analytica, which I would argue is also General Flynn, had actually named that demographic the neurotics.
Wow.
So they were targeting the neurotics, right? And so, wow.
That's fascinating because when I used to go looking around for sponsors and those guys with the gold and the storable food and stuff like that, they'd all say, that's the target audience. These guys with the AK-47 in their corner and they're fighting with their wife. They're down in their mother-in-law's basement. That's their target audience for these guys, man. But Patrick Bergy, now what about, because we can't overlook in this whole mix, this is the same time that the whole QAnon phenomena came out. Is there a tie-in there?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But the tie-in with Q that I would argue people should actually look at is the Q component, to me, is not the actual messages being put out. The Q component, Q couldn't exist if it wasn't for a guy with like a background like mine, let's say, which specialized in anonymity, non-attribution, when using social media and other types of, applications like that. And so, you need to be able to look like you're anyone coming from anywhere, which, by the way, huge fail on Israel for not using those types of non-attribution in a state-funded and organized campaign against us for social media warfare. It was tracked right back to them. The hundreds and hundreds of fake personas. My job was to make sure that it could never be tracked back to them. So those guys suck. I'm just going to say take the L on that one, Israel.
No, Patrick Bergy, what about someone like Colonel Michael Aquino, who had this background in psychological warfare, wrote the handbook Mind War? Would he be included in all this social media psych warfare that you're describing today?
Well, that definitely gets out of scope with me, but, it certainly fits with the conversations Kay Griggs has had, which I have listened to fully many times, because a lot of it I completely agree with and say, wow, that makes sense. Wow, that helped me fit that piece of the puzzle that I've been looking for.
And where is Kay Griggs? Is she dead?
No, she just did an interview a few months ago at a little cafe.
Really?
And it was a great interview. Not the best audio, but I can't be complaining about audio. Because of how horrible of a job I did the other day.
Yeah, but there's reasons for all that too. Okay, but now, now my question is but Trump had access to this data, or at least the people around him, Manafort, Stone, those characters, and Flynn. Are they still no? And I think in one of our discussions we said that they were using it to manipulate the House of Representatives and get them to fall in line with Trump. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And even deeper, which is what I was talking about the other day in my show, was the connection, the involvement that I remembered witnessing and experiencing when I was riding with Born to Ride for 45, and Born to Ride for 45, with some of the leadership in there and their deep, close ties to the Brexit movement. And now that I'm seeing things like that congressman that came out talking about how he's the only one, I think Massey came out saying how he's the only Republican in Congress that is not getting money from Israel. And by the way, that very statement would imply President Trump,
right?
For because he was specific to the Republicans. He said, I don't know about the Democrats, but the Republicans, he's the only one. Now, Matt Gaetz will try to come out and say, oh, I'm not funded by Israel. But if the Brexit folks over in Miami are funding his IIA operations, and different assets, social media assets that he deploys. And again, I'm not just picking on the Republicans. You know that McChrystal does the same thing, was doing the same thing. He dumped $60 million into social media influencers back in 2020 to just have them, paid them to as like basically user-generated content. He was probably one of the early adopters for the UGC marketplace of just, you know, social media psychological warfare, where he dumped $60 million into Florida's social media environment to just counter anything that the Republicans, specifically Trump at that time, specifically DeSantis at that time, were saying. Right? So it's just a war. It's a war that these people are doing. And I don't understand why this can be allowed to happen to Americans, why this isn't a violation of our constitutional protections, you know.
Like, what's the money?
I mean, it is the money. It's the influence. It's the fear that if you don't go along with them, they're going to fund your
come after you, right?
So it's pretty simple. But it sort of also seems like you're looking at like foreign agents, like FARA issues. And how are we allowing our congressional representatives to do this? It's just so as I start to see more and more people come out saying, "Wow, this the American-Israeli pact, AIPAC is." You know, Tucker came out, and I don't agree with Tucker. I don't trust that man any
no way.
further than I can throw him. His father, he jokes about his father's position in the PSYOP community. Are you kidding me? He jokes about the fact he failed out of CIA school. But why were you even in CIA school? You are a freaking journalist, right? Do you realize what that does, how that damages the journalism reporters across the board when you sell out to either a foreign country or even your own country to push a narrative for money, or to push a narrative out of fear, or to push a narrative out of getting a promotion, which is kind of like money, or growing your network. If they help you grow your network, they're going to own you because they'll take that network away. If you're an influencer, they'll take it away the moment you don't say what they want you to say. And if you think I'll go to another one. No. This everything we're seeing, just like the Mockingbird media, controlled. We know controlled. The big three, television companies back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Then cable comes out, 90s. They start, what are we going to do? Then, 2000, we've got the internet really exploding.
YouTube. But they're all over the podcasters now. They're all over YouTube. They've got everybody.
They've got money. They're putting in, this is almost certainly, this is taxpayer dollars. Now, that taxpayer dollar might be going into actually paying a company like Dynology to do the research and development of an application like ShadowNet, making millions of dollars on the development of that, keeping the intellectual property rights to it, then turning around and using that taxpayer money that you got for doing the contract to actually deploy the contract, the applications on Americans. So it's kind of like that. It's just kind of like that's the same money. It just changed one hand, and it's. You can look at the contracts online, and you can look at the GAO's funding. You can see that these things are happening, not just by Dynology. Hunter Biden was doing it. He was doing it with military ballistic vests, right? And that's what we knew about. But that's still profiting from war.
Well, not only that, but, John Kerry's son was partners in there with Hunter Biden on all of this stuff. And they don't even want to hear his name at these hearings. They bring up his name, forget it. The mic goes dead,
Did Hunter Biden profit from any of his connections with these large Ukrainian oil companies when his dad took out the Nord Stream pipeline? You know, these are war crimes. That's what I'm hoping that Scott Bennett's going to expose when he gets back. I'm doing a story on him tomorrow over in Ukraine that he sent me some video and stuff on.
How often does your show air? Every night?
No, just like once a week on Thursday, and I've even been having trouble meeting that the last few Thursdays. But I'm actually working. You know, I work a day job. I'm 25 years of IT, so I actually have been working, putting together the cafe that we can go into in a bit, but putting together this cafe and
I got one more question for you. But the best way to keep up with Patrick Bergy is on Twitter, Facebook, and Patreon, American Awakenings, and also to bookmark freedomstream.tv too as well. I can't encourage people enough to keep up with this guy and what he's talking about. Before we get into the cafe, I got a question for you though about Trump's trials and all the trials going on. They must be using, this is a resource, man, to have this kind of data at your fingertips, right? And these kind of resources. Are they using this against the jurors and against the judges and the judge's family and all this kind of stuff?
Well, you know, I don't know if AI is being used to select juries, right? AI, if it was used to select juries, well, it would use it based on a data collection, a set of data analytics that would probably be similar to the profile algorithms that Cambridge Analytica used, right? Or ShadowNet used, just now AI enhanced. And I could absolutely see that being used, but I have no evidence of it. Tori, during the Shadowgate documentary, made the claim that it was like, it was being used with against Roger Stone, but I never saw any evidence of it. And I asked her multiple times to show me what evidence she had of it. She just kind of laughed it off. But so is that a possibility? Something we should worry about? Yeah, probably. Are they doing it? I can't say. I don't know. But that would be a huge problem if they were basically using those types of tools to select juries that would almost certainly ensure that you were going to lose. Where's your
judicial system?
Fair trial there.
But where's our House of Representatives right now? He's got every single one of these guys in his pocket. Now, that has to be from some type of blackmail dirt, right? What else could it be?
A lot of these people, like Patrick Byrne, run around and boast of having blackmail. Mike Cernovich, a quote-unquote journalist.
Laura Loomer.
I call him an asset. He's really an asset of Flynn, just like Laura Loomer. Assets of Flynn. Mike and the other one. But those guys are, some of them, like Jack Posobiec, he actually has training in the military, in the Navy with the PAO, Public Affairs Office. And my work with in IIA, I actually supported the PAO.
Well, that guy from Project Veritas, I forget his name off the top of my head. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, yeah, the founder of it?
Yeah, that guy. Anyway, he got training from Eric Prince on and they were up in some small town in upstate New York where they kind of had training to do this kind of these covert operations. And then they were almost hired by Qatar to do to do surveillance and operations over there. Where are the lines anymore?
Yeah. And he was also busted by he was also outed by one of his former whistleblowers that he apparently screwed over. But he was outed for going to one of those really like those satanic events.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What was that? You gotta look into that. That thing that only the richest people.
Bohemian Grove.
Bohemian Grove, yeah, he was at Bohemian Grove, and then he's like, "Oh well, I was just there. I didn't know anybody there. I didn't inhale. I suppose I don't know. That's kind of the problem I had which got that got our conversation started with Trump. When what I did is I reposted an image that showed Trump sitting next to Epstein on what appeared to be Epstein's jet. Right now, we've got a lot of people. We've got coming out recently. Kevin Spacey came out.
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, yeah, I flew on the jet with Clinton and Epstein," but again, he's like, "Well, I didn't inhale, right?" Only when it comes to like little girls, which I actually kind of buy with Spacey.
Well, Spacey's into little boys.
Yeah, but who knows if there weren't some Cabana boys waiting for him at.
Oh no, there are boys. I have a list of victims of Epstein, and some of them are boys. Yeah,
little tattoo waiting for him on Fantasy Island over there, right? And so it becomes a problem to me. And so everybody responded, "Oh well, it came out AI that there was some AI generated images of Trump on the plane with Epstein and a bunch of young girls and stuff. Those are all AI generated. Some of the girls are missing arms and stuff." And I'm like, yeah, but is this? Is the one of him legitimately well documented, going back a couple decades?
Well, there's video. There's video of them dancing together. All kind of stuff. I've had a dozen witnesses on this show. And Patrick, let me tell you something else real quick. Okay, I'm not to interrupt you, but with the whole Stormy Daniels deal, those were all my people. I've known Keith Davidson and Gina Rodriguez. I knew about this deal back in 2016 when I was shopping around Epstein cases back in those days. I was told of a package of pictures that were being shopped around of Epstein on Trump's plane and Trump on Epstein's plane and Clinton on Epstein's plane, and all these pictures were being shopped around as a package. The only ones that saw the public eye are the ones of Clinton. All the other ones were purchased and killed. Okay, and I have a guest coming up to that. That was his full-time job at AMI to kill stories about Trump.
Catch and kill.
Yeah.
What do you think I put my ass on the line for with Shadowgate for? To try to expose people from using those things and corrupting journalism. How does that not destroy the integrity of journalism if you are paying to catch and kill stories? And how can you then call out and say, how can you say, well, I would have won in 2020, but for Joe Biden using his people in the media to catch and kill the stories related to Hunter Biden's laptop. Granted, that probably cost more to do than the catch and kills with Trump stuff, because, the laptop was just everywhere and devastating. But actually, let me rephrase that. The images of the laptop that were never forensically verifiable were what was out there. Finally, for the first time ever, with all these people running around shouting about the laptop. No. The laptop was finally forensically entered into court. I'm curious.
Yeah, what's the chain of custody on that?
Well, that's good, right? That's really good. They've kept chain of custody on that laptop very well. I'm curious to see if anybody takes and compares the file sizes and the number of files and the file sizes in both the images that Rudy Giuliani had and the actual laptop images. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Because what's missing, what's potentially been added. That's always been my problem. That was what I told Rudy. He said, okay, well, what's your opinion after you had a chance to look at this? And I said, well, pretty shocking stuff. The guy likes to take pictures of his poop. But among other things, right? But none of it, like the documents in Ukraine or the documents that he had for business and such, none of it could be, in my opinion, at least with the tools that I had and my skill set, which is pretty good, but not, not like
you're not the NSA.
No, I'm the IT guy, right? But I told him that this might be good. This might be good for political gain, but it cannot be used in court. So, and then I reminded Rudy that oh, Millie Weaver's arrest could be used in court. The burying of my Keatam and everything that happened with Shadowgate could be used in court. This can't, and that's been documented. But he chose to go with the easy thing and going after Joe Biden, trying to just use his drug addict son. And I mean, just when I look at all of this, I'm like, you guys are so morally and ethically bankrupt. If you're trying to convince me that it's better to vote for you and the people around you than it is for the people you're telling me are really like super bad, I'm like, really? I'm going to need the data on that, because I can't tell.
What's the difference? Yeah.
Super bad, mentally broken, mentally, ethically bankrupt categories there, right?
A couple of questions for you, Patrick Bergy. Okay, now your knowledge of this Hunter Biden laptop is there blackmail dirt from that laptop that's still being out there held back? One question. Question number two: a lot of the information from that laptop comes trickling out because originally they couldn't break into passwords and into accounts. As time has gone on, and we've seen them starting to break into these different accounts, do you think these guys have stolen money?
It's hard to say, but I know Tucker Carlson had some personal emails that he was he was good friends with. Even his kids were good friends with Hunter.
Oh, really?
Oh my God! Again, it's like, why do people follow Tucker so blindly, right? Do I disagree with some of the stuff he reports on? No, that's why he's reporting on it. They look at the data. They know what's going to be the most appealing to people that's gonna have the most ability to actually click through to a call, using these call to action click throughs like in marketing. All they're doing, these are just good marketing strategies that they're using. But they're using marketing strategies that I would advise any company to never use, because you might be able to sell some of your products if you're a business using like fake personas or tricks like that. But if it ever comes out that you've done it, you're going to destroy every single thing that you've worked for. You're going to be deplatformed on places that you were able to generate your income from with whatever product or content that you wanted to put out. So I'm like, these people, they just have they don't care. They'll make up anything. They will target people that are the most susceptible to their messaging, and then they, and these are generally good patriots, right? These are good Americans. These aren't our adversaries that they're targeting, although they are still doing it in other countries, like Ukraine, right? Like in Israel, and basically everywhere. We need to have some sort of like SALT 2 talks for social media warfare, or we're just going to absolutely destroy ourselves. We can't trust anything out there. And Trump and people like that, Trump going around saying, "Oh, that was AI. That was AI." Well, was it? Because granted, some of it's out there, but that's the problem now. Even the real stuff they can claim's AI. They might. I've argued that Stone probably knew or loved the fact that AI was being generated about him about the same time the documentaries were coming out, where they were playing recordings of him. Documentary journalists were included in their documentaries, and he was saying, "Oh, that's just AI. That's fake." And he says, as an example, look at this AI over here, and I'm of me, and I'm like, oh, it doesn't have any arms or anything, whatever, right? But I'm like, yeah, that's definitely AI, but this really isn't. But then that's all they need. They just need that much to not lose everybody, to keep just enough people so that they continue to rebuild after something like that happens.
And now, Patrick Bergy, you got a long history with this. You were with the Bikers for Trump. You were inside with all these guys, right? What was it that the last straw, the arrest of Millie Weaver, that was it? When you saw that and you said, that's it, I can't trust any of these people? Is that what happened?
No, the last straw for me was when George Colella one of the co-founders of Bikers for Trump,
Okay.
and one of the co-founders of Born to Ride 45 and Bikers for Trump, and the other ones, Bikers for 45. George was using as his sergeant in arms, which basically was heading up security for Stone's events, for Flynn's events, and even Trump's events. And his sergeant of arms had, what Jonathan Lee Riches, had spent a decade in prison, right, for scamming little old ladies out of their money, phishing scams. And while he was in prison, he apparently didn't like getting caught, so he sat there and filed 4,000 frivolous lawsuits in the court system. Just to tie the court system up, they all got thrown out. They were all just made up, right? Made up about, just everything. To people with big names. So he would get it filed in a court, and journalists would see that name come through the court system and immediately report on it, not really looking to see that it was a guy sitting in prison faking it all.
Gotcha.
And so much so that they ended up putting him for half of his 10-year sentence in solitary confinement. So this guy is just bat guano crazy, right? And legitimately, and a felon. And he was friends with Enrique Tarrio and with Roger Stone, and kind of an asset of them. And so they had this woman who was actually claimed to be at the time pregnant with Enrique Tarrio's baby, infiltrate my little store here in Newport Richey, Florida, where I was writing and publishing my book about my experience on January 6th, which wasn't going to be very good when it came to my what I witnessed. And so they put this girl into my to try to set me up. And again, remember, she claimed to have been, and then later on had a child, and then later on was with Enrique Tarrio's mom during his trial, like a year later, right? Which I'm pretty sure she called Grandma, right? And so these people tried to set me up, tried to silence me, to stop the information that I had from getting out about Stone and about these other people. And so, when it comes to when it comes to your, you want to support Trump, great. Why don't you get these legitimate questions answered, and then I'll reevaluate my support for Trump. What did he know? What did he condone? How would he respond after he knew, if he didn't already know, right? Would he continue to protect garbage like Roger Stone or like Jonathan Lee Riches, who fabricated a story that I molested my daughter when she was 10 years old?
I'm so sorry.
But in my own defense, that for 7 years, I was deployed overseas, either in uniform or on SOFA contract, or on SOFA visa for the Department of Defense as contractor. But he doesn't care. It's the guy who fabricated 4,000 lawsuits, posts that crap online, and then, they don't do it, and George wouldn't do anything about it. So I told him, I won't repeat it. I'm doing much better in the second half here, but I won't repeat it. And then I took his Born to Ride 45 patch and threw it, and flipped him off and said, "To heck with you, because you, what kind of person would support a person like that?" And he just, and how would you even continue? And he continues, if to the best of my knowledge, JLR continues to be a key, like either sergeant at arms or key asset of Roger Stone, George Colella, Born to Ride, the bikers. And these bikers have a tremendous amount of political influence in Florida. We got the Attorney General elected. She would not have been elected if it wasn't for George and us getting her through her primary. Ron DeSantis would not be governor but for George Colella and Bikers for Trump and Bikers for 45, putting these big escorts, biker escorts behind him. We were hugely impactful on DeSantis's election, and they owe him, and they protected him, and they've covered all of this up, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to remain silent on it. I have my own life. I have a day job. I don't this isn't all I do, but when I have the opportunity and I have the skill set to be able to put something together, to be able to actually put a message out, to be able to actually market it, and to be able to actually maybe even circumvent their ability to contain my claims as a DOD whistleblower, then I'm going to try.
Well, tell us about that, because we only got about 10 minutes left. This new project you're working on, this new platform, tell us what this is.
So one of my jobs when I was actually in the military was as the information assurance security officer. I held the ComSec keys, right? So the keys that you would use to secure the NIPRNet, the non-secure Internet Protocol Router NIPR, or SIPR, which would be Secure Internet Protocol Routers. NIPR, SIPR, Centrix, SOIS, SOIS. That's like a really high-level network, right? I was in charge of the ComSec keys for all of these things, right? And then also on NIPR, you would have that's like a non-classified network, but it's still secured, right? You have to use a CAC card to access it. And what I did was I built out these collaboration portals, SharePoint collaboration portals and such. So what I'm doing, I started getting involved in marketing last year, about this time last year, right? And I picked up a few clients locally who needed some help with their marketing, and one of them was getting charged a tremendous amount of money, not going to say, but just a phenomenal amount of money every month for a marketing company, which I'll not name, and so I was like, wow. And when I started looking at what they were actually providing and how much they were charging, I was like, well, that's ridiculous. We can do this much easier. And largely a lot of that's because of the abilities that tools like AI give you, and being able to create really beautiful content, well-worded content. One person can now be, a whole marketing team. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking the marketing strategies and such that I've used to actually, almost eliminate, cut in half their expenses for companies that would traditionally be paying huge sums of money to these larger marketing companies. And these larger marketing companies, they know that they're totally getting screwed here. They're going to be screwed very quickly.
But this is like a platform where I can play my show too, right?
Well, yes. So what I'm doing is
Facebook.
I'm basically designing it. So it's a cafe, right? So it's basically a cafe that, okay, so if Starbucks had sex with Google and gave birth to Facebook, then that's basically my business model for the cafe, right? So it's a cafe, but it's going to be set up as members only, and the only way you can access the network is by coming into one of the cafes and providing 2 forms of ID, and you'll be issued a CAC card, just like we did for the military. Basically, I'm building a network infrastructure that has the same level of security as our government officials do for day-to-day business. Why shouldn't we have that same level of security, right?
Yeah, cut out these trolls and these anonymous.
Right. Well, it would because if you're on there and you can still say whatever the heck you want as long as it's constitutionally and lawfully protected. But you say it as who you are, not as some non-attributional persona. And so, think about it. Businesses that become members of this can do ordering or create content, right? And even work and engage with other content creators at the cafe, which also has like a studio built in. They'll have multiple studios as we go on, to where content creators can come in and even create really nice content. Just rent out by the hour the studio and create content, really nice quality, live stream it, and then have the tools to store it, save it, work on it, create it using SharePoint platforms, using Microsoft, and then using then being able to visualize your data. Are my ads that I'm running, or the things that the pages that I'm creating, are they optimized properly to be able to be highly rated as an authority in search queries, right? And all of these things can be done like using Power BI in Office 365 to visualize your data as you bring it in. And so I give these really powerful tools and abilities to individual creators, right? To be able to create their own, to be able to not only create their content, because a lot of creators will start out and they'll be like, oh, this is great. Oh, wow, I'm taking off. But once you take off, you got to be able to have a way to manage your content and to be able to understand and be able to, keep all your stuff together. Otherwise, you're going to be overwhelmed and fail. So that's basically what the cafe is. But as we grow, which we hopefully will grow, right, we're basically, each cafe is a micro data center with a pretty high level of security. So as we grow, the cafes connect to each other as new channels, right? And so the cafe's website, which I'm still putting it together and everything, so I'm not going to I don't want to go in there. It's like you go there and it's under construction. I think I may have shared you a link to it, but it's under construction. I got maybe a week.
I get everything first.
Yeah, right. Maybe a week, 2 more. It looks pretty cool, though, right?
Everything comes through Opperman land first. Right. But if it's secured and people are identified, you have an ID card. Then we have e-commerce in there. You have monetization, all kinds of stuff, right?
You could actually have a community, right? A social media community that is in your community. You can store your data on a server rack that you could walk in and just take out and leave with, right?
Okay, for the audience, you got to keep an eye on Patrick Bergy, okay? You check out Patreon, American Awakening. His website right now is freedomstream.tv. He's got got several books out. You want to check out these books. Victim of the Swamp, How the Deep State Destroyed the 40-Year-Old Private. It's not destroyed. The guy's doing pretty good. Operation Shadowgate, The Hacking of Mankind's Shadow. Operation Shadowgate, The American Awakening. Anything else that you want to promote right now, Patrick?
No, just again, say thank you, Ed.
No, man. Look, dude, thank you, man. Thank you. And anytime, I want to have you come back more often, okay? All this information is really important stuff that I know that my audience is into this stuff. So the more I can get you back, the better.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Good night.